To think that we can't make organisms that are more efficient than existing, I don't think is correct, because nature doesn't have DNA laser printers and we do.
Hi, I'm Zach Weissmuller for Reason TV. We are here with Austen Heinz, CEO and founder of Cambrian Genomics, a company dedicated to making 3D printed DNA. Austen, thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you.
Now, when you say 3D printed DNA, it conjures a certain image in my mind. What exactly happens when you print it off? Are you just printing off this like goo filled with DNA, and what happens to it afterwards?
I think 3D printing is a good analogy, a good way of understanding it. With 3D printing companies, you have one company like MakerBot, and they actually sell printers that people have on their desktop. And then you have other companies like Shapeways, where you send your design and then they will print something there and eventually send it to you. We're more of the Shapeways model. You're going to design it on your home computer, but send it here and we're going to print out the DNA sequence. Unlike with Shapeways, we're not immediately going to send you your thing back in the mail. We're going to send it somewhere else to be tested to see if it's safe. And once it's seen as safe and you're able to put enough money into it to get over the government hurdle, then you'll be able to actually get your product.
So what is that product? I mean, someone sends you what kind of DNA they want, and then you make it and you send them what?
MakerBot, you would print out, say, like a plastic dinosaur, right? With Cambrian, the idea is eventually you'll be able to print out your own little dinosaur that actually walks across the table.
Oh, what step in that development process are you at now? What exactly do you produce here in this laboratory?
Right now we produce DNA for the largest pharmaceutical companies in the world, as well as partnering with plant companies. Currently, Glowing Plant is a product for sale at glowingplant.com that glows in the dark. We got that through the USDA and the EPA. You're going to be able to get the seeds and grow it in your yard, which is exciting.
What your company has kind of brought to this process so far is you've dramatically brought the price point down. Could you talk about that and the role that robotics plays in that, and the role that automation plays, and your ability to bring that price point down?
It's directly related to another phenomena that I think everyone's familiar with. It's just DNA sequencing. 15 years ago, no one got their genome sequenced because it cost $6 billion. It was $1 a letter. That became super cheap because it became made by a machine that could make and read millions or billions of strands of DNA at a time, like the one sitting right there. Will sequence 400 million strands in a single run. What we did is we simply leveraged sequencing technology to reduce the price of making DNA, so that the cost now of making or writing DNA letters is the same cost as reading DNA letters.
The idea that this power can eventually or very soon be in the hands of the masses frightened some people.
Yeah.
And we saw some of that play out in your interaction with Kickstarter, where you were raising funds for creating the glowing plants, and Kickstarter banned any further GMO projects.
Well, that will probably change, I imagine. It's a new technology. Not a lot of people have familiarity with it. Our goal really will be to put this in the hands of everyone, to not necessarily to make money, but to make this a more common thing.
Huge percentage of what we eat already is GMO. There is a growing fear among certain segments of society and even people in government that people will alter our environment, our ecosystem, in ways that are unpredictable and possibly dangerous. Does that concern you when it comes to this kind of thing?
Yeah, so safety is a huge concern, and security. To think that we can't make organisms that are more efficient than existing, I don't think is correct, because nature doesn't have DNA laser printers and we do. And so we really need to build a system whereby the things that we create do not proliferate into the wild, and the way to do that is by changing the codon table. Like, this is all protein, or it's organized by protein. Protein is 20 amino acids, and so if we introduce artificial amino acids into synthetic creatures, and then there's no source of that in nature, that means they can't survive unless we're feeding them.
if we're thinking of this in terms of 3D printing, where essentially the means of production are kind of brought way down and ownership is brought to the individual level even, how do you see that shifting the way science is done in America?
Oh yeah, so virtualization is really going to take off. We see things like Oculus Rift and augmented reality, the Ed Snowden robot from TED, and it's going to be almost like being there. And so you'll be able to go from idea to finished product without ever touching anything physical. And that's exciting because that's not how things work now. If you go to an academic lab, it's miserable. They're spending 90% of their time cutting and pasting DNA from different creatures that they collect from across the country and pasting them together. We want that to be 95% design analysis and 5% manual work, if there's any manual work.
Your company has glowing plants that are available for people to design and even purchase. One of your companies has even promoted a probiotic that allows dog crap to smell like bananas. Yeah. So what is the relationship that you see there between consumerism and science?
Well, what's great is with consumer products is that they can be crowdfunded. So the plant, $5,000 investment, $500,000 in 6 weeks, over $1 million revenue total since the onset. That means a couple people can get into the game with a tiny budget, a budget just large enough to make a video. And if there's interest, then they can use that money not only to print the DNA, but to make the organism and then pay for the expense of lawyers and everything else to get it through the regulatory agencies.
How do you feel generally about the regulatory environment of the biotech space? Do you feel like it's about right? Is it too restrictive in certain areas, or what's
It's funny, it's not. In the United States, we're pretty open on plants, but we're really locked down on people.
Oh yeah.
Whereas you go to Europe and it's the opposite. They're really locked down on plants, but they're open on people. In the UK, they're having 3-parent babies. In the near future, we're going to have lots and lots of people humans walking around Europe that are genetically modified, genetically modified organisms. What's also funny is that many of those people are going to be a part of anti-GMO organizations. So you're likely going to have the president of some anti-GMO organization be a GMO. And so you'll have a genetically modified organism protesting the existence of genetically modified organisms, which is going to be really funny. In time, all of us will likely need to print out and fix our DNA. The issue with that is it's going to be unique. Our DNA is unique unless you have an identical twin. Your DNA is unique, and it's wrong. Everyone's wrong. Everyone's messed up, and everyone needs to be fixed or will need to be fixed at some point. You'll either get cancer or some other disease. So how do we do that given the current regulatory environment with the FDA? The FDA doesn't approve things one-off. They approve like a small molecule that you can give to everyone on Earth. But everyone's unique, and that model will no longer work. It's going to be very, very specific and very individual, because now we have these tools that are very, very precise. I mean, with this machine, we can sequence a whole human genome in a single run. We can know all of your letters. With the machines in the other room, we can print out all of the letters. And so that power never existed before. And so regulation on the medical side of things is going to need to catch up to that.
On a personal level, what excites you most about what this technology allows us to do right now, and looking forward in the next 3 to 5 years, what aspect kind of gets you the most excited?
We're getting really close to the point where we can not only know our code and all the code of everything that's alive on the planet, like Neo in the Matrix. It's all just, everything that's alive is just code. All the food. 10, 15 years ago, we didn't have that. Now we do. Wouldn't it be more exciting if not only we could know what everything is, but sort of change it by snapping our fingers and reimagine an entirely new world around us where everything is programmable, everything is rewritable, everything can be modified, everything can be made better, and the individual has the power to do that. The individual has the power to know themselves like they've never known themselves before, to read their entire code. It really changes society, culture, religion, changes how we think about ourselves as humans, changes about how we think about the environment, changes how we think about our future and the purpose of life itself. It is extremely profound, but it all comes from something very simple, which is the cost per letter of DNA.
Austen, Heinz, thank you very much for talking to us.
Yeah.
For Reason TV, I'm Zach Weissmuller.
You're going to design it on your home computer, but send it here, and we're going to print out the DNA sequence. Unlike with Shapeways, we're not immediately going to send you your thing back in the mail. We're going to send it somewhere else to be tested to see if it's safe. And
with Austen Heinz, CEO and founder of Cambrian Genomics, a company dedicated to making 3D printed DNA. Austen, thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you.
Now, when you say 3D printed DNA, it conjures a certain image.
And they actually sell printers that people have on their desktop. And then you have other companies like Shapeways, where you send your design and then they will print something there and eventually send it to you. We're more of the Shapeways model. To think that we can't make organisms that are more efficient than existing, I don't think is correct, because nature doesn't have DNA laser printers and we do.
Hi, I'm Zach Weissmuller for Reason TV. We are here, in my mind, what exactly happens when you print it off? Are you just printing off this like goo filled with DNA, and what happens to it afterwards?
I think 3D printing is a good analogy, a good way of understanding it. With 3D printing companies, you have one company like MakerBot